Good afternoon to all. On behalf of the Department of Foods, Nutrition and Dietetics, myself, Tushar Ganguly, welcome you all to the second webinar series of the department Nirmal Swasthya, which focuses on nutritional and lifestyle empowerment of the community. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our principal, Dr. Geeta Ibrahim, and our management to support us in this endeavor. I would also like to express our gratitude towards Kellogg's Nutrition for collaborating with us in this series of webinars. Today is the fourth session of the webinar series. As we all know, the topic for today is Journey of a Breakfast Cereal from Seed to Spoon. We all are aware how important breakfast cereals are. They are very important because they are responsible for providing us with nutrients. Simple grains are transformed into breakfast cereals using different technologies. Today, let us learn and understand how the breakfast cereals are transformed from seed to spoon. आज हम देखेंगे और जानेंगे कि सिंपल अनाज के दाने ब्रेकफास्ट सीरियल्स में कन्वर्ट कैसे होते हैं. To enlighten us with this particular topic, we have with us our speaker for the day, Mr. Sitanath Misra. Let me take this opportunity to introduce him to all of you all. Mr. Sitanath Misra is the R&D head for Kellogg Southeast Asia, covering Asian markets. He is currently based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Mr. Misra has 14 years of research and development experience with proven contribution in food and beverage industry, product and process development, cost value engineering, regulatory affairs, claim support, and defense working with organizations like GlaxoSmithKline, Heinz Italy, and Heinz India. International experience of working in Milan, Italy for 1.5 years, with Heinz Italy covering European and Asia Pacific markets and reporting to the business head. He joined Kellogg India in 2015 as Senior Manager Research and Development for Kellogg's emerging market based in Mumbai and led a team of 2 managers working on the breakfast cereals innovation and renovation for Asia Pacific region to drive consumer relevant differentiated offerings in various formats like porridges, cereal drinks, ready to eat and instant extruded and flaked cereals like cornflakes, chocos, muesli, granola to new technological platforms. He has worked with Heinz and developed new product pipeline for the Complan brand in Asia, Middle East and Africa. He is identified as one of the top talents of the company and deputed on an international assignment at the Heinz Global Center for Excellence for Infant and Nutrition in Milan, Italy for 1.5 years, developing infant formulas, weaning foods, and established a portfolio management process for the region. He started his career with GlaxoSmithKline, responsible for research and development works in the nutritional malt and cereal beverage segment, which is Horlicks extension, Horlicks cereal bars and biscuits, and Lipozote sports drink and regulatory support to the business for South Asian markets. He has an excellent academic track record. He has been a gold medalist in MSc Food Technology from Central Food Technological Research Institute, CFTRI, Mysore, and he has been a gold medalist in BSc Biochemistry from the University of Madras, India. I think it's really a privilege to have Sir with us today, and I would really want to thank him because he has joined us and he would be sharing with us a good amount of information. We all are eager to hear you, sir. Before I hand over the platform to Sir, I would just give the participants 3 important instructions. Please don't unmute yourselves. Keep your videos off. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat section. We'll address the queries at the end of the session. Wishing all the participants a very happy learning and handing over the platform to Sir. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Tisha. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone out there can see my screen. the presentation. So even before I embark onto my presentation this afternoon, I wish to first of all thank the Department of Food, Nutrition and Dietetics of Nirmal College of Home Sciences for inviting me for this topic. And I also want to thank my colleagues, Ms. Nadia Merchant and Ms. Sweetie Das, who actually facilitated this presentation for me to come and talk to you. So to begin with, let me share a snapshot of what I want to talk through in the next 1 hour or so. I will be talking a little bit about demystifying food processing, because relatives believe that food processing overall is bad. So yeah, let's understand bad or how good it is. Then we will understand something about food fortification. And moving on from there, we will talk about micronutrient malnutrition. What is the current situation in India, and why fortification is a good strategy to combat micronutrient malnutrition. And at the end, I will summarize or end my presentation talking about the benefits of fortified cereals. So let's what is food processing? What are the benefits? Why do we process food? So talking about food processing, actually my aunts, relatives, so within my own circle, within my family, and I think it holds good for the larger population. Their equipment out there process, they keep doing all kinds of operations like canning, freezing, dehydration. Risha, can you hear me? I'm sorry, it seems like I logged off.
Yes, sir, you are clear now. You were a bit unclear a little while ago.
Okay, I'm not quite sure where I left. I regret for the technical glitch here. So, okay, we start from the food processing. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are. You are.
Okay. So I was talking about food processing. What do people like us believe? What is food processing? A lot of my friends and within my family, people believe that food processing is bad. We believe that food processing happens in those big industries out there. We believe that there are these huge equipment that the industry uses, and then we have all these kind of processes like canning, freezing, dehydration, fermentation, and all that sort of technical jargons that people believe is all about food processing. But in reality, food processing, what is it? Food processing is actually nothing but everything which comes out from the agricultural land to your plate, anything that has gone in between. वो सारी प्रक्रियाएं जो आप खाना खाते हैं, जब वो खेत से निकल करके आपके प्लेट तक आने के अंदर जो भी वहां पे जो भी कुछ प्रोसेसेस हुए होते हैं, that is food processing. And whether you like it or not, actually it believes right, it starts right at your kitchen. जब घर पे आप खाना बनाते हैं, वो भी एक तरह का food processing है. So food processing not necessarily has to happen at large scale. In the subsequent slides, I'll be talking about how food is processed, giving some examples, but you will realize that food processing is important because it converts your food into a more edible, palatable form. It makes it more convenient. It allows you to keep it for a longer time. So that is how essential food processing is. So हम अगर मैं ऐसे हिंदी में तो खाद्य प्रसंस्करण ये बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि आप चाहते हैं कि आप खाना खा सकें, उसे उस फॉर्म में खाएं और आप एंजॉय करके खाएं और आप एक कन्वीनियंट फॉर्म में खाएं और उसे आप काफी देर तक रखना चाहते हैं, तो बहुत जरूरी है that food has to be processed. Let's look at some of the examples, and I will specifically take examples from the items that we use commonly at household. Let's look at sugar. So ये तो हम सबको पता है कि हमें गन्ने से शुगर मिलता है, लेकिन गन्ने से शुगर पहुंचने तक उसमें काफी सारी processes होती हैं, and that is food processing happening, right? So the first step, once you have harvested the sugarcane from the agricultural land, is that you extract the juice. This is no different from how you get your sugarcane juice in your kirana walas when you go and have your sugarcane. So आप गन्ने का रस लेते हैं, you will see exactly how we do it in a much larger scale in the industry. So you have these crusher rollers where you feed the sugarcane and you extract the juice. The juice that comes out of this process, as you can see on the picture over there, is slightly acidic and turbid. Because ये acidic है, अम्लीय है, so you need to add something, and that's what we add, the lime. जो चूना पत्थर है, we call the milk of lime, we add to that, so that because as you know, acid reacts with alkali and neutralizes it. Because ये slightly acidic है, तो इसीलिए हम इसमें चूना पत्थर डालते हैं ताकि वो जो अम्ल है वो उसको आप न्यूट्रलाइज कर सकें. और उसके बाद भी heat it, because when you heat it, it kind of coagulates, and there are a lot of other unnecessary things, like you have waxes and fats. You want all of that to be out. So वो सारा settle हो जाता है नीचे, and then जो रह जाता है, that is the juice, the extracted juice. Next step is about clarification. So this is which is I was talking about the addition of lime, the milk of lime, and then heating it, how it helps to coagulate, makes the slightly acidic juice into a more neutral pH, and then you're trying to remove all the gums, fats, and all the undesirable fat. But eventually, आपको अगर sugar बनाना है, तो इसमें बहुत सारा पानी है, वो पानी we have to get rid of that. And that is what is multi-effective operation. आप घर में अगर आपको ये बनाना है, तो आप स्टव पे लेकर के maybe you will आप धीमी या तेज आंच में उसे कुक करेंगे, so that the water gets out, and that is evaporation. Just that we do it in a more scalable, efficient way में. आपको दिखने में those equipments look really big, but this is basically nothing but they are evaporators. आप वहाँ क्या करते हैं? You pass steam. आप गर्म भाप लेते हैं, उसमें से जो पानी होता है वो धीरे धीरे निकल जाता है. So this is 4-stage evaporation where you feed in the steam, and then the vapor is passed on to the second silo there, which helps to heat. Eventually, जब इससे बाहर निकल करके जो juice आता है, उसमें से आपने बहुत सारा पानी निकाल दिया है, and this becomes very concentrated. So it's almost like 65% of the water is 35% is sucrose, 65% of the water has already gone. So ये जो गाढ़ा juice है, what we do as the next step is we crystallize it. तो crystallization में हम क्या करते हैं कि हम इसमें थोड़े से चीनी के दाने डालते हैं. These acts as nuclei, so that forms the basis on which it will you basically keep heating it. आप इसको continuously heat करते हैं, and then वो जो nuclei है, जो चीनी का शक्कर आपने डाला है, उसके ऊपर ये grow करता है crystal mass. And after crystallization, we do something which is called centrifugation. You could imagine the washing machine at your home. जब आप कपड़े डालते हैं washing machine में, and when you make the spinner move, you can see that there is water draining out, और कपड़े exactly वही process होता है. पानी बाहर से निकल करके आ जाता है, और जो बच जाता है, that is your sugar, which you can dry. Subsequently, आप उसे hot air dry करके you get the sugar, and जो liquid आता है, that is molasses. That's a byproduct. So you see, canned sugar cane जो खेतों में उगता है, by the time it reaches to sugar, it has gone through this, and this is food processing. You have had these terms, and I'm trying to get you to think how you would do this if you were to do it in your kitchen. I think you would follow something very similar. You would probably put it in the stove. Of course, we will have to do it in a more controlled manner to get this. Maybe it's difficult, but just imagine if you have to do this at home. This is food processing. So this is just one example. Let's move to some more examples which we use commonly ingredient in our household. Let's talk about rice flakes, which is what is called as chivda or chuda in the eastern parts of the country, or what we call as poha in Maharashtra. So how is this made? The starting material for any rice flake is paddy. But आप paddy तो consume नहीं कर सकते हैं. So you have to make it into a more edible format, which is convenient, and look at the processes involved. The first thing that we do is we soak the paddy in water for 12 to 18 hours. That is kind of a tempering. आप इसे पानी में भिगो करके रखते हैं 12 से 18 घंटे. And then you roast it. In the olden days, typically people would use sand roasting, and we heat it about 200 to 250 degrees Celsius. So आप instantly उसे roast करते हैं. And this is kind of, it's like parboiling rice. So it's a dry mode of parboiling. So it's almost like dry parboiled paddy. And then you allow it to cool slightly for 5 minutes. Uske baad, what we do is flaking. So in the traditional way, in the older days, I think even today, in some parts of the rural side of the country, you would see people use pounding. Traditionally, they would have this wooden mortar and pestle, and people use this wooden pestle to pound the paddy, which is cooked and roasted. What happens is, because the bran is so light, it tends to fall off, and because you have the grain inside which is cooked, it's almost like a plastic. When you hit, it tends to flatten it, and that's how you get a flaked rice. यही चीज अगर हमें larger scale में बनाना है, because wooden mortar and pestle में you are using manual energy. If you have to do it in a more industrial scale, we will use equipment. So we have these round horizontal pans in which we feed in, and then we do this mechanically. So paddy से पोहे बनने के पूरे process में you will see all of these steps are food processing. यही चीज अगर आपको घर में बनाना है तो शायद आप exactly ऐसे करेंगे traditional method में. So this is processed poha. Now let's look at some more examples. Spices, masale तो हम हर जगह use करते हैं हमारे खानों में. Even those, what we believe as a basic thing in our kitchen, Indian kitchen, has been processed. So if you look at a chili, you basically get the chili from the agricultural feeds, and then you dry clean them, because there are a lot of other unwanted foreign material like stalks, stems, seeds. You obviously remove that, and then you de-seed it. आप उसमें से उसके सारे seeds निकाल देते हैं. अगर इसमें moisture ज़्यादा है तो ये इसको grind करने में दिक्कत आती है. So you have to dry it to bring it down to a certain moisture level, and then you coarse grind it. आप इसको you make the not very fine, but you just make it a bit coarse, and then you can subsequently, depending on the requirement, you can further mill it to get a more fine powder, and then you sift it, and then you pack it. तो जो मसाला का पाउडर आपके घर पे आया है, या जो मिर्ची का पाउडर है, or for that matter even your turmeric powder, any of these, cumin powder, coriander powder, any of these spices have undergone food processing, because you cannot consume those spices as it is. अगर आपको उसमें मसाला, you can do it, yes, you can do it at home, and exactly what industry does it to make it more convenient for you. Now let's look at more examples. Wheat flour, जो आटा या मैदा या even सूजी रवा, ये सब जो घर पे लेकर आते हैं, all these have been processed. So the wheat which is collected from the agricultural feed, depending on what you want to make out of this wheat. If you want to make biscuit, you want to make a cookie, you want to make a pasta, you want to make noodle, or you want to make atta for regular consumption at home. Depending on that, the food manufacturer or the miller will actually process. So depending on what is the end product, he will decide what is the wheat that he needs to take. Obviously, because it comes from agricultural land, it has to be cleaned. And this cleaning looks very simple, but यहाँ पे भी बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं. So for example, एक मैग्नेटिक सेपरेटर होता है जिसमें आप चुंबक से जितने भी उसमें लौह अयस्क है, और the iron ore is separated, and then you have like stalks वगैरह आपसे ये कर देते हैं. So cleaning में भी बहुत सारे different steps होते हैं, magnetic separation, and then wind blowing, so to remove all those lighter material. And after cleaning, then the industry does what is called tempering. So basically you add some moisture back, because ये जो wheat है, you want the अंदर वाला, we will talk about it later as we progress in the presentation, the structure of the grain, where we have the endosperm, जो edible portion है जैसे हम मैदा या आटा बना करके खाते हैं वो है endosperm, and then you have the bran and the germ. So what we do is when we do the tempering for 6 to a few hours, you add certain moisture so that the inner endosperm becomes more easy to break, and then it undergoes through step-by-step milling. इसमें 5 milling step is what we call 5 breaks. In the first break, of course, you break and try to get the endosperm, and then eventually it all gets collected. Slowly, progressively, you are trying to separate the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, and then you pass through a sifting. Sifting is nothing but basically a chunni. Imagine आपकी ये वेट का पोर्शन गया और सबसे बड़ा वाला पार्टिकल जो है वो ऊपर रह गया, उसके बाद जो बारीक है वो दूसरा छन्नी उसमें गया, फिर उसके बाद वाला बारीक, और इस तरह से आप निकाल सकते हैं. तो अगर आपको होल व्हीट फ्लावर चाहिए या आटा चाहिए, so you can add back. So that's how the industry operates, and then eventually you get a fat product. So the wheat from agriculture, by the time it comes out as flour, has undergone process. Some more examples talking about processing. Popped ragi flour, which is called as nachni in Marathi, or ragi as they call it in the south. Now this is a very nutritious grain, as we all know. And this is another example that I want to highlight, where how food processing makes one of your grain more nutritious. रागी अगर आपने देखा हो ध्यान से तो उसके ऊपर एक बहुत स्किन होता है which is made up of testa and this aileron layer. So and it's also high in oxalic acid and certain anti-nutritional factors like trypsin inhibitors, vagaya, vagaya. So when you actually process it, the nutritional value of the ragi increases, enhances, because you are significantly decreasing the level of oxalic acid and the trypsin inhibitor and any such anti-nutritional factors, and it makes it more nutritious. So how do we get the popped ragi flour? So we take the ragi grain, the nachni, and then we add water, moisture, exactly similar to how we did it for wheat. We soak it for 18 to 20% of moisture, and then we allow it to keep for 4 to 6 hours. And then just like how we made the poha, हमने वहाँ पे देखा था, if you remember, just in the previous slide, I was talking about pohe में कैसे हमने उसे रात भर भिगो के रखा, and then we did the sand roasting at certain temperature. So वही process है यहाँ पे भी. Hot sand में आपने 230 से 250 degrees centigrade temperature पे इसको heat किया. Basically आपने cook कर दिया है grain को already, and then you pass through a grinder and you get that flour, ragi flour. वो ragi grain वहाँ से आते वक्त ragi flour के through में जो भी process हुआ है, this is food processing, and this processing is essential because it has improved the nutritional value of your food. It has removed some anti-nutritional factors. It's made eventually your ragi flour is more convenient to use. Now you can make out of nachni ka roti, you can make dosa, you can invariably make a ragi kanji of how they make it in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So this has made the food more edible, more convenient, has also increased the nutritional property of the food. Talking of which, another example commonly consumed. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. Yes.
Okay. Sir. Okay. So I was talking about rice, another commodity that we use as a staple. And look at how paddy grain, by the time it comes out of the agricultural land to our plate, has undergone processing. So you have all these paddy grains collected from the agriculture field. We do a bit of pre-cleaning where we remove all the husk, and then this when you remove the husk, then you get something what is the brown rice, and then it undergoes polishing. You basically do where you actually rub the rice so that you can remove the outer layer, and that becomes more polished rice. And the leftover polishing ke jo tukda nikal aa jata hai, that becomes your broken rice. So even the paddy, by the time it reaches to your plate as rice, has undergone food processing. And this is essential because agar wo paddy ka grain jo khet se aata hai, wo aap aise kha nahi sakte. It has to be converted into a rice. That's how it becomes more edible. It becomes more convenient for you to make a biryani or make a kheer or everything. Obviously, paddy cannot be had as such. That's why we make a poha or make the rice out of it. Even before I move to the next aspect about cereal processing, I just want to touch upon, although I have not done any slides here, even the fruits and vegetables that you consume from the market has undergone some sort of processing. So for example, these apples out there in the market, you would see that also has undergone process. So even in India, for example, when apple is grown in Kashmir or Himachal, वो वहाँ से वो apple लेकर के आते हैं, then you do a color sorting, आपको अच्छे मतलब we make gradings like A, B, C depending on the color, the appearance and everything, and then you wash it. You have to wash it with certain chemicals so that any the dirt or any microorganisms on the surface of the apples are eliminated. And then because आपने इसको धो लिया है, इसको अगर हम ऐसे ही पैक करके रख दें, तो then it will shrink because there is a natural wax coating over apple. The moment you take that out by washing, it tends to shrink. The moisture will go out, and then it will lose its appearance. That's why a lot of these fruits are coated with edible waxes. So there are some approved waxes like carnauba wax and shellac wax, which apart from making the food look better, the apples look, of course, much better when you have a wax coating. It also reduces the process of shrinking because the moisture is retained. Similarly, talk about any item in your kitchen. Just go around and have a look at all the ingredients that you have in your kitchen. Be it your foods, your commodities, your dals, your cereals, or even the milk that you get. Better, I mean, even if it's a Tetra Pak milk or the pouch milk, has undergone some sort of processing. Now let's look at what are the commonly used methods of processing. So at home level, we do all these, जो हम घर पे खाना बनाते हैं, all of these are food processing. Frying, चाहे आप जो भजी बनाते हैं, you are frying it. That is basically removing moisture. Then you refrigerate, और आप घर पे microwave cooking करते हैं. Blanching, आप गर्म पानी में डाल करके किसी चीज को बाहर निकाल के लेकर आते हैं. That is blanching. और घर में अगर if you have a non-vegetarian like a meat or a fish, you want to keep it for a longer time, you put it in the deep freeze, or you do dehydration or drying. आप घर पे सुखाते हैं, चाहे पापड़ सुखाएं या घर पे कोई you want to sometimes even we dry the grains, for example, because we want the moisture to go down and you want to keep it for a longer time. Extrusion, basically pressure cooking, or even जो घर पे चकली बनाते हैं, that's kind of an extrusion process which we'll see later. या हम अचार बनाते हैं, मुरब्बा बनाते हैं, we actually add salt or sugar. These are all different kinds of processing which is done at home at a much smaller scale. Evaporation, homogenization, जब दही से we from the milk you want to extract the fat, you do homogenization. So आप उसमें से जो milk के fat को churn करके जो घी निकालते हैं, that is also a kind of homogenization. These are everything that we do at home, and exactly the same operations are done at a much larger scale using more because we want to cut down manual operation, we want to make it more automated. That's why the equipment look a bit scary. But these are also some of the processes that we do at industry. So which is microwave cooking, frying, refrigerated, blanching, freezing, extrusion. All of these are some of the processes which is used at home and is also used at the industrial level. So talking about these processing, sterilization, ये हम कहाँ यूज करते हैं? जो टेट्रा पैक में जो अब दूध आता है, so of course we know जब गाय के स्तन से जब दूध निकल करके आता है, उसके बाद immediately chill it. We want to make sure that it is at 4 degrees Celsius, and then we do some sort of homogenization to remove the milk fat. That's how you get your skim milk or your tone milk, because depending on the fat you want to remove the fat, and then it undergoes something called a sterilization, because आप 121 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड पे उसको 2 या 3 सेकंड में हीट करते हैं ताकि उसके अंदर के जो harmful microorganisms हैं, pathogens हैं, they die. Pasteurization is done similarly at a lower temperature. Blanching, for example, all the almonds that you get have been usually blanched. That's how you avoid them getting rancid, and you can store them for a longer time. You pass through a steam, you make it so basically you have converted a material which had a very short lifespan, which would have otherwise spoiled, into a product or an item which is now okay for you to store for a longer time. So all these are different kinds of processing used: microwaving, frying, refrigeration, freezing, irradiation, evaporation. Evaporation I spoke about when I was talking about the sugarcane extraction process. वहाँ हमने sugar गन्ने के juice को हमने evaporate करके उसमें से धीरे-धीरे पानी निकाला था. Dehydration is कहाँ जरूरी है? For example, your fruits, अगर fresh fruits हम ज़्यादा दिन नहीं रख सकते, you are aware that when we keep the fresh fruits, maybe it stays only for 3 or 4 days, and imagine you want to keep the food for a longer time, so you dehydrate it. That's when you add it in sugar solution. Because of osmotic dehydration, all the water comes out. So all your candied fruits there, the blueberries or the strawberries in the market, for example, you get these, you get the fresh one, but if you want to keep for a longer time, you dehydrate. Emulsions, homogenization, extrusion, vacuum pack, all of these are different kinds of processing, and you can actually easily correlate that with everything that you do at home as part of your cooking. Similarly, we have something called the chemical processes. So we have these intermediate moisture foods. Typically, the water activity for these foods is between 0.4 to 0.6. So it's a little technical, but water activity above 0.9 makes it prone for pathogens to grow. Above 0.6, you make it favorable, has to be controlled. Your salting, sugaring, pickling, the entire process of making the jams, jellies, marmalades, all these involve addition of these, and they are actually doing osmotic dehydration. Sometimes you smoke your food, like the meat and the fish, that also generates, apart from developing flavor, also helps to preserve the food. Similarly, there is something called the pH control. We were talking about this pH control when I gave an example of sugar processing. Because the lime juice was slightly acidic, we added the milk of lime to neutralize it. Yeah, this is just an extension of the fact that how all those industrial processing are also done at household. Blanching tomatoes, microwaving, the frying the puri or the samosa that we make, the way we make it, because the dough, you have added water, you are basically frying it, so eliminating the moisture and making it, of course, more palatable. You get the vegetables from the market and then you refrigerate it. So that's also a processing. Evaporation, the way you make papad at home, that is also dehydration. So the crux is food processing is essential, and you could easily correlate everything which is done at the industrial larger scale with an operation that you do at home. So all foods, whether packaged or sold, are processed. So after this presentation, I urge you to go and even your salt has undergone some processing. Your salt, your sugar, your spices, your milk, even fruits and vegetables. I said except maybe some fruits and vegetables, but even fruits and vegetables are actually processed. Your grains, your, of course, even higher degree of processed with all your formulated foods, everything is processed. Food can be processed either before or after they come at home. So yeah, and as I said, even fruits and vegetables sometimes are processed. Now let's move to the other aspect of my presentation today, which is about cereal processing. What is cereal processing? How we do it and why we do it. तो जैसे कि मैंने पहले बताया था कि एक ग्रेन में 3 component है. When I was talking about the wheat milling, I mentioned there is this endosperm. So wheat का जो, as you can see, let me try and see right there. Yes. So बीज का जो आप भाग देख रहे हैं, yellow, this is starchy endosperm, and जो एकदम नीचे जो portion है, that is your embryo, which is where is basically the germ, and outer layer में जो आप देख रहे हैं, which is bran. तो किसी भी seed में ये 3 चीजें होती हैं, bran, the endosperm, which is primarily the carbohydrate part, so 60 to 70% of the grain is actually endosperm, which is the source of your carbohydrate, like wheat or rice. And then you have this germ oil. ये जो embryo दिख रहा है वहाँ पे, germ oil is very high in unsaturated fatty acid. And as you know, unsaturated fatty acids are not stable compared to saturated fat. That's why the grains tend to perish very fast. And that's why in the industry, they tend to remove this unsaturated fatty acid, because it allows you to keep the grain for a longer time. And then you have, of course, bran. We know the benefit of bran. Yeah, it contributes to fiber. So most cereal grain are processed. And the reason why we process it, because it makes it fit for human consumption. एंड अगर हम इसे प्रोसेस नहीं करेंगे तो हम इसे नहीं खा सकते. आप धान या गेहूं का वो जो दाना उसे तो नहीं खा सकते, आपको उसे कन्वर्ट करना ही है किसी प्रोसेस में. तो जैसे कि मैं बता रहा था कि चाहे वो पोहे बनाना हो या आपको वहां धान से राइस निकालने का प्रोसेस है, यू हैव टू प्रोसेस इट बिकॉज इट इज मेकिंग इट फिट फॉर ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन. और जब आप पोहा बनाते हैं दैट इट रेंडर्स इट very easy to make a sweet preparation or a savory preparation. You can make a kandhe pohe, or you can make a poha khichdi, or you can make a pohe ka kheer. And so that's how the versatility of the food is increased when you process the food. So by processing, we remove the hull, the outer hull, as you can see there, which is largely indigestible. We cannot digest it. Only some ruminants like cows, they can digest it, and that's why usually the hull is sent as cattle feed. And then you have the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, which forms after milling your flour. Why do we process the cereals? And this is just an abstract from an article, but basically the larger point is that whole grains cannot be consumed as such by mankind. You have to do some kind of processing, because processing makes it palatable. आप उसे खाने लायक बना देते हैं. And the other thing is it increases the nutritional property. कई बार उसमें ऐसे तत्व होते हैं जिसे हमारी बॉडी डाइजेस्ट नहीं कर सकती, या कुछ ऐसे हैं जो हमारा बॉडी उसे स्वीकार नहीं करता. देख, मैं रागी या नाचनी के बारे में जब बात कर रहा था तो मैंने आपको बताया कि उसमें ऑक्सैलिक एसिड है, उसमें ट्रिप्सिन इनहिबिटर है, इस तरह के कंपोनेंट्स हैं which are not digested by the body. These are anti-nutritional factors. जब आप process करते हैं, you are actually making the food more digestible, making it more rich in nutrition. So sometimes processing also enhances the nutritional property of the food, apart from making it palatable, apart from making it easy to be able to store for a longer time. So what are the advantages of cereal processing? So cereal processing helps and improve nutrition. Going back example of ragi, nachni ko humne dekha kaise because of processing it made the food nutritionally better. It makes the food safe. Again, similar. कई बार उसमें जैसे मैं बता रहा था, right, actually helps in making the food safe. It also makes the food convenient. आप धान ऐसे नहीं खा सकते, लेकिन जब पोहे बन करके it made it much more convenient for you. Next, the commodity or the grain, and of course you improve the palatability. You cannot technically put any other food item there. Doodh, for example, I was talking about milk. It is so perishable. So Tetra Pak milk, for example, allows you to use the milk for 6 months. So you have actually increased the shelf life, and you've enabled it to be preserved and to be used for a longer time. Improved palatability, gummy juice versus the sugar. Of course, sugar makes it much more convenient for you to be able to add in various forms. Now let's look at some of the food processes that we do at our kitchen, Indian kitchen. So for example, the art of making roti, the art and the science. There is a science as well as an art. Yeah, that is food processing. So गेहूं आता है, आप उसे मिल करते हैं, उससे आप आटा बनाते हैं, then आप पानी डाल करके गूंथते हैं, and then you flatten it, and then आप उसको सेकते हैं, and then you get the fulka or the roti out there. And similar process of chakri, which is, I was talking about extrusion. तो जब आप चकरी बनाने के लिए you use that equipment where you force feed it, एक छोटे से छेद से उसमें से आप निकालते हैं, that is actually kind of extrusion. वही चीज हम इंडस्ट्री स्केल पे करते हैं, जब हम उसको फोर्सिबली एक छोटे से नैरो ऑरिफाइस से निकाल करके बाहर निकालते हैं तो वो प्रेशर से अपने आप को खो जाता है. That becomes extrusion. So exactly how we at Kellogg's make our cereals. If I were to give an analogy of the roti versus the cornflakes, you will see the process is very similar. So we get the sun-dried, ripe golden corn from selected fields of India. So we get these corn cobs. Then we have, you can see the pressure cook there. We have exactly, if you visit any of our Kellogg's factory, you will see that we have those rotary drums. These are nothing but basically kind of pressure cooker, जिसमें हम करते हैं, इसमें cook करते हैं, and after उसके बाद हम, just like how you flatten the roti, It's exactly how we do. We take these cooked corn grits and then we flatten it through roller mills. तो उसमें से दो रोलर होते हैं, मतलब मान लीजिए कि जैसे कि दो ड्रम है जो रोल कर रहे हैं और इसके बीच में आपने फीड किया है कॉर्न क्रॉप्स को, कुक कॉर्न क्रॉप्स को, और वो जो बाहर निकल करके आते हैं, then they become flattened. And exactly like how you would do this at home, if maybe you would use a microwave oven, हम उसी तरह से हम इसे टोस्ट करते हैं, मशीन में हम इसे टोस्ट करके बाहर निकाल करके, तो फाइनली आपका कॉर्नफ्लेक्स तैयार हो जाता है. So you could see at an industrial scale, cornflakes, you could easily correlate this process with your roti making. What's more, our cereals are actually fortified. Because I was talking about the grain where I spoke about bran, germ, and endosperm, and during processing, a part of the nutrition is lost. कई बार होता है ऐसा कि nutrition उसमें हो जाता है. That's why it's important that you add back those lost nutrients by fortification. So most of our Kellogg cereals are fortified with one or other micronutrients. So we have all the essential B vitamins, B1, B2, B3, B6, B9, B12, vitamin A, vitamin C, iron, and some of our cereals even have zinc. So we fortify our cereals to make sure that all the nutrients or any nutrient which has been lost, or for example which was not present, कई बार होता है कि inherently उस grain में नहीं present होता है, that's where you need to add, and that is the process of fortification which improves the micronutrient profile. Talking of which, the obvious question is why do we not need to fortify? एक तो है जैसे मैं बता रहा था कि कई बार मिलिंग के वक्त कुछ नुकसान हो जाता है, उसके अंदर का जो माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट है वो चला जाता है. That is why we add, we fortify. But is that the only reason? No. There is another very important reason why food at large needs to be fortified. Look at this data from the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare released last year, 2019, and this statistic speaks for itself. Look at the data for preschoolers, which is usually kids below, so it's 2 to 5 years, your toddlers, and look at the data for school age and adolescents. Iron, 32% of our preschoolers are deficient in iron, 17% in school age, and 22% in adolescent. And as we know, iron is such an important micronutrient. The moment आपके शरीर में iron की कमी होती है, you obviously have an impact in terms of the productivity. You are sluggish, you are not alert, you are not active, you cannot concentrate. So how do we expect our kids to excel academically? How do we expect them to participate in sports when they have deficiency? Look at, despite being a country where we have plenty of sunshine, look at the vitamin D deficiency. We have almost 24% of our adolescents who have vitamin D deficiency. And vitamin D, with more and more emerging science now, also says has a role in immunity. Vitamin D also helps in absorption of calcium. We also know that. So we obviously, all of us understand कि अगर एक या दो इनमें से कोई भी एक माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट अगर हमारे शरीर में कम हो जाए तो उसका सीधा सीधा असर हमारे परफॉर्मेंस पे पड़ता है, चाहे वो हमारे फिजिकल एक्टिविटी पे हो या चाहे हमारे कॉग्निशन, हमारी एकेडमिक परफॉर्मेंस पे हो. This clearly tells us that unfortunately as a country, I think in terms of our micronutrient intake level, we have failed. And another micronutrient, zinc, is so essential, apart from its role in development, also has a very important role in immunity. So you look at that data there, preschoolers 19%, 17% of our school-going kids, 32% of our adolescents are deficient in zinc. Folic acid is such an important micronutrient for the formation of red blood cells, is again deficient at large. So just to reinforce that point, as I was saying, anemia, as per the latest data, about 450 million, almost 45 करोड़ भारतीयों में अनीमिया है, खून की मतलब आयरन की डेफिशिएंसी की वजह से अनीमिया है. That you can straight away correlate with the impact on the GDP. अगर हम ये जो हमारे 45 crores Indians हैं, if we could actually make them have affordable iron, and if we could actually stop this anemia, the widespread anemia in the country, that will straight away have an impact on the GDP, the productivity of our country. We also see that there is B12 deficiency in our country. B12, as you know, usually is found in non-vegetarian sources. Part of our population is vegetarian, so they also have B12 deficiency. And there are other studies which says that zinc deficiency, as I was talking in the previous slide, which is such an essential nutrient in terms of its role in development and immunity. It is estimated that because of the climate change, because of the carbon dioxide emissions, the inherent ability of the crops to take zinc will reduce. So as such, we are at a precarious situation right now. We don't have enough zinc intake by our population, and this situation will become even worse as the climate changes, as the carbon dioxide emission increases. We also see vitamin C, again, in this era of pandemic, where everybody is so concerned about immunity, building immunity. It's unfortunate that we also have vitamin C deficiency in our elderly population. This just further accentuates the fact. Look at our urban data. अगर हम आज अपने शहरों की बात करें तो वहाँ पर भी unfortunately हमारे population में सबको the RDA is the recommended dietary allowance of how much we should be consuming per day. We don't get. Look at the vitamin A data, which we know is how essential for the vision. It's only 22.8. मतलब अगर हमें दिन में अगर हमें उदाहरण के तौर पर अगर 100 मिलीग्राम विटामिन ए खाना, माइक्रोग्राम विटामिन ए खाना है, तो हम उसमें सिर्फ 22 खा रहे हैं, या सिर्फ हमारी 22% आवश्यकता पूरी होती है. Look at riboflavin B12, which is so important for our energy metabolism. हम अपने दिन के जो requirement है उसका सिर्फ 50% आज हमें मिल रहा है. Pregnant women who are actually bearing the future of the country, even they don't adequately meet the nutritional requirements. So this is how unfortunate but glaring and quite gloomy situation, unfortunately, for the country. That's where food fortification becomes all the more important. It is scientifically proven that food fortification is one of the most cost-effective, scalable, and sustainable way to alleviate micronutrient deficiency. तो अगर हमें micronutrient चाहिए, अगर हमारे खाने में नहीं मिलता है, how do we get it? There are 4 different ways in which you can get micronutrients. Micronutrients, जैसे कि नाम से पता चलता है, micronutrient, because they are required in such small quantities. These are not carbohydrates, fat, and your protein which you need in large quantities. हमें बहुत कम मात्रा में चाहिए, और इससे पाने के हमारे पास 4 तरीके हैं. The first and the foremost is that we eat a balanced diet. But unfortunately, this is something which is not happening. In fact, the latest the data from the government of India shows that by and large, our populations have shown decline in consumption of fruits and vegetables, which are such an important source of micronutrients. हम आज उस मात्रा में फल और सब्जियों का आहार नहीं कर रहे हैं जिस मात्रा में हमें करना चाहिए. This is where unfortunately we have to look at other means. What are the other means of having micronutrients? Food fortification. That's why we need to fortify our foods with micronutrients, because this makes it food. This is one of the most easiest way to do it. What are the other way? Let's look at biofortification. ये क्या है? So for example, अगर हम गेहूं या धान उगा रहे हैं, तो we do a bioengineering. हम उस soil में we try to, और इस plant में हम genetic engineering के द्वारा उसको high vitamin A करते हैं. But this is a little more tedious and cumbersome process if you have to biofortify our cereals so that all the wheat and the rice and the staple that is consumed in the country is already fortified. That is a little more tedious and that's not possible. The other option is to supplement. वो market में जो बहुत सारे vitamin और mineral supplement मिलता है. Unfortunately, that also is not a viable solution because compliance is a big issue. When the government tries to give vitamin supplements to schools, we realize that compliance is issue. People don't consume pills. People don't like to consume medicines. Although food is your medicine, but we don't like food being called as a medicine. That's where the easiest and comparatively most efficient manner is to fortify your food. आप अगर अपने खानों में जो आप चाहे वो bread खा रहे हैं, biscuit खा रहे हैं, या breakfast cereals खा रहे हैं, or anything that you are eating in the mid-morning or your mid-evening snacks, if they are fortified, you are actually ensuring that जो आप otherwise normal खाने में खाते हो, at least आपको मिल रहा है. So what are the benefits of micronutrient fortification? So the reason why we fortify our cereals, and for that matter, a lot of other foods are fortified, is because it enables it to reach the masses. Unlike a vitamin or mineral supplement, which not many of us take, I think this is a much more easier way to make sure that it reaches out to the mass. It's safe also because all these micronutrients are known to be safe, and we follow the regulation in terms of the levels. And this is also cost effective compared to taking more concentrated supplements or going by the biofortification, the bioengineering of the plants. This is a lot cost effective. This also doesn't alter your food. इसमें किसी तरह का प्रभाव नहीं पड़ता आपके खाने पर, taste, aroma, texture, every way. And also it is easier to do, and you get the results also faster. When you consume fortified food for a substantial period of time, it straight away shows the impact in terms of your plasma nutrient level. So as I spoke, fortification is very important, specifically in the Indian context. And at Kellogg's, we fortify all our breakfast cereals. This is one of the simplest ways to make sure that the micronutrients are available to the larger population. So the research has actually shown that all cereal eaters have higher intakes of fiber. Our cereals, for example, our muesli, which is made of oats, barley, and different grains, are a rich source of fiber. Calcium, some of our cereals like chocos are fortified with calcium. Then iron, our cornflakes, for example, is a very good source of iron. All the micronutrients out there, vitamin A, vitamin C. And because you tend to consume breakfast cereals with milk, it also improves your milk intake. And most of the breakfast cereals are very low in fat, so you are also ensuring that your total fat levels are low. And also because by virtue of the fortification, you are making sure that your cereals give you the required micronutrients. So आपका जो दिन का micronutrient का requirement होता है, उसकी पूर्ति होने की भी आशंका ज़्यादा है जब आप breakfast cereal खाते हैं. So to sum up, I would say that all your foods, the key messages that I want to leave this audience with, all the foods, as I was saying, when you enter into your kitchen, look around and you will see everything that you see, whether packaged or whether you get it from outside, from your kirana walas as loose, has undergone some or other form of processing. Most cereal grains also have undergone some kind of processing. And why food processing? Because it makes your food safe, it makes your food palatable, it makes your food nutritious, it allows you to keep the food for a longer time. So जो भी आप अपने किचन में जाकर के आज देखें, सब कुछ प्रोसेस हुआ है, किसी ना किसी तरह से उस सब में प्रोसेसिंग है. चाहे वो आप किराने वाले दुकान से वो लूज में आटा खरीद रहे हैं या आप ब्रांडेड आटा ले रहे हैं, चाहे आप नमक खरीदें, चाहे आप दूध खरीदें, चाहे आप फल सब्जी खरीदें, किसी ना किसी प्रकार का खाद्य का प्रसंस्करण हुआ है. और ये जरूरी है बिकॉज ये आपके फूड को सेफ बनाता है, आपको उस लायक बनाता है जिसे आप खा सकते हैं, आप उसकी जो गुणवत्ता है, उसकी न्यूट्रिशन है, उसको बढ़ाते हैं. और आप बिकॉज आप प्रोसेस हुआ है, आप इसे ज्यादा देर तक घर पे रख सकते हैं, आप 4 महीने, 5 महीने, 6 महीने तक स्टोर कर सकते हैं, which was otherwise not possible. And then we spoke about fortification. That cereal fortification is essential because you are adding those micronutrients which otherwise you don't get, which you would have got if you were eating a diverse diet. And that helps. I spoke about the rampant micronutrient deficiency in the country and how fortification helps to alleviate that concern. And there is enough evidence already available that people who consume regularly breakfast cereals, fortified cereals, have a better nutrient intake. तो ये जो माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट है, जो इसका मतलब है कि बहुत कम तत्व में चाहिए आपको ये विटामिन और मिनरल, इनको आपको ग्राम में नहीं खाना, मिलीग्राम या माइक्रोग्राम में खाना है. अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो हमें नहीं मिलता हमारे दिन के जो हमारा फूड प्लेट है उसमें. दैट इज व्हाई इट इज इम्पोर्टेंट कि आप सीरियल्स खाएं जिसमें ऑलरेडी फोर्टिफिकेशन है, जिससे कि आपका बेटर न्यूट्रिशन इनटेक है. With that, I conclude, and over to you, Trisha, if there are any questions.
Sir, can I request you to stop the screen share, please?
Sure.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a very informative session. And I'm very sure all the students have taken down their notes because this thing really forms a very important part of the syllabus. So thank you so much, sir, for this enriching session which you have provided with us. So, sir, there are a few questions which has come up. So we'll just take them one by one. So, sir, the very first question is, can these anti-nutritional factors be eliminated at home level?
Yes, some of them process like fermentation. Your soaking overnight actually helps in removing anti-nutritional factors. When you make a idli or a dosa or a dhokla, when you are actually fermenting, that as a process where you have eliminated some anti-nutritional factors. Even the sattu that you make or the ragi, the popped ragi flour, when you are cooking at home, grinding it, you're keeping it overnight, before grinding it, water that also helps in reduction. So yes, it is possible, because as I said, food processing, whether is also done at home and it's also done at industry. So whatever is applicable for industry, yes, you can replicate it at home.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, there are so many processing methods which are there. How are these temperature and time combinations selected at an industrial level?
That's a very good question. So let me give an example, specifically taking milk as a substrate. So milk can be pasteurized. So you can heat it at 76 degrees centigrade for a certain duration of time. You could also sterilize at 121 degrees centigrade for a few seconds. But then what happens that when you pasteurize it for a longer time, when you heat it at a lower temperature, but for a higher duration of time, you are actually losing out certain nutrients. There is a loss of nutrient. That's where industry would prefer, for example, a sterilization process where you're heating the milk at 121 degrees Celsius for a very short duration of second, which enables to retain the micronutrients. So you have to look at the pros and the cons. But by and large, the first and foremost important thing is we don't want to lose out the inherent nutrition present in the commodity or the ingredient. That's how you try to select.
Um, so the next question is, difference between fortification and enrichment.
Okay, so there is a specific regulatory definition for that. तो अगर आप कोडेक्स रेगुलेशन देखें तो उसमें उन्होंने already बताया है enrichment is basically you already have, you are trying to increase the level as the name suggests. Fortification could be you don't have and you are trying to add something. तो जैसे food में inherently कोई vitamin mineral नहीं है, आपने उसमें add किया, चाहे that's a biscuit or a cookie or a bread or a breakfast cereal or any food for that matter. Even for example, you can fortify your rice. जो घर में आप खाना बनाते हैं, you can actually add something like calcium or vitamin D and add, that's fortification. Enrichment, it is there, but it's not there at a sufficient level, and you try to increase the level.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, how well are these fortified nutrients absorbed as compared to the natural nutrients present in the food?
Okay, so there is this big difference or a big debate in terms of the bioavailability. I think this question is pointing towards of the availability. So bioavailability as a factor is actually in turn affected by a lot of other things. So for example, iron kabhi, we have different kinds of iron salts when we add. So for example, you have iron can be added as an elemental iron can be added as ferrous sulfate, iron can be added as ferric orthophosphate, but all of these iron when we add have a different bioavailability. So when at an industrial scale, when you are as a developer or as a food formulator, when we look at what is the availability, what is the bioavailability. For example, elemental iron has higher bioavailability, so we will add it as elemental iron versus. Similarly, let's say vitamin C, adding as ascorbic acid or sodium ascorbate. You could add folate or you can add folic acid. You will have to look at the form in which you are adding. And there are a lot of clinical studies. Now there is this emerging science, or I wouldn't say emerging, it's already emerged, is about the nanoparticles, which is saying the size of your particle also has a very important role. So for example, you have these micronized calcium, micronized iron forms, which the particle size is so low. When you fortify these are more bioavailable versus the particle size, which is bigger, because this is the concept of bio nanoparticles. So I think this is a very vast subject, but by and large, I can say that the science has evolved. A lot of technological advances have been made in the past. And I think we now understand the different elemental forms, what is the availability, and you have to select the one which is the best available, also suitable for your food. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि आप, for example, I know that iron oxide is the best. This is the best way to add and get the higher level of bio availability, but maybe उस food में वो stable नहीं है. So rather than leaving out and saying because इसमें stable नहीं है मैं iron ना डालूं, I would actually take something which is slightly lower the grade, but at least I'm fortifying, so at least the consumer is getting some iron there. Just a hypothetical example.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is, will regular intake of fortified cereals have any adverse effect on our health?
So I think the concept is very simple. Water-soluble vitamins, your vitamin B complex, vitamin C, Of course, if you take them in larger quantity, as by virtue of them being water soluble, they tend to be excreted via urine and they are pretty safe. So a lot of, for example, folic acid, I think we pregnant women, as per the RDA, they just need 400 microgram maybe, but then the doctors recommend pregnant women even as high as 5 mg, but I'm really not concerned because yeah, anything excess, the body can throw it out by urine. The concern is more on the fat-soluble vitamins, which is like the A, D, E, K. But unfortunately, the irony of this country is that we don't get, as I was talking in the presentation, we don't get adequate vitamin D. So where is the question of excess? हाँ तो हालत ऐसा है कि हमारे food से हमें vitamin D deficiency नहीं मिल रहा है और we are having rickets or osteoporosis. So unfortunately, vision problem hai. So I don't think we are at a stage in our country where we have reached to a point where we debate that is it adverse. Similarly for minerals also, we don't tend to get adequate. That's what the data is already indicating. Iron, zinc, all of these, calcium deficiency already present here. So I think it is a balance. It is judicious use.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is, when we process the cereals to get RTE products, will the glycemic index rise as compared to preparing a breakfast at home?
Okay, breakfast at home. When you are making poha, you have actually taken the flattened rice. So the glycemic index, and poha to me is ready to eat cereal. So the glycemic index is just the same, whether poha ko aap usme, you can enhance the glycemic index of the food by virtue of adding all, you can add, let's say, peanuts, you can add vegetables, and that's how you, at a home level, we do. But I think if you look at the overall pros and the cons, it outweighs. The fact that by processing the cereals, you have made it more palatable, you have made it more convenient, you have enhanced the shelf life, you make it, and you allow it to be consumed any time of the year within its shelf life, versus a glycemic index, like I would think that it is far more. And even glycemic index processing, there are ways to control. For example, steel cut oats, they are lower glycemic index versus instant oats. We do know that, but then the time required to consume steel cut oats, for example, is much. So do we have, the fact is that we are so, we don't have time, we are always rushing. So for somebody to cook actually steel cut oats and say this is low glycemic index, it takes about hours, versus a 3-minute instant oat. At least I get my oat, my beta glucan, my fiber, and I feel happy. So it's a bit of a balance. But yes, people who have specific needs, like people who are diabetic, and yeah, it makes sense for them to opt for low glycemic food.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering all the queries. It was really an enriching session, and we would like to extend our gratitude for accepting the invitation and joining us and delivering this amazing session out here. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for
And I again want to thank the Department of Food, Nutrition and Dietetics of Nirmal and my colleagues Nadia and Sweetie for inviting and facilitating this conversation. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, after the participants, please access the feedback link which has been provided to you all. Fill the feedback form and send it back to us. We would again meet tomorrow. We have a session tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we all would meet again at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with us, for joining us, and have a good day and have a safe day. Thank you so much.